The visual party has begun.
Hello. Whoa, bringing the dab back from 2018. Nice.
Oh, is it old?
I made that up. I don't know when it was
Well,
incorporated.
kids don't see each other in person anymore, so how would they dab?
The dab,
In an
another
Instagram photo.
casualty of quarantine.
The saddest one, some would argue.
Fidget spinners and dabbing.
Oh yeah, remember fidget spinners from like last year?
That last year or 20 years ago?
They were always hyped as like a thing to help people focus. Did they help either of you focus?
Nothing helps me focus. You know what? It's funny that you say that because we all make the 10 years since COVID started joke. And what I've recently come to think about is, stop me if I've already told you this, but I have it on to Boldly Watch, that it's because we mark our life in milestones and because so many of our milestones have been canceled this year, our vacations and our holidays and trips, and that's the same as a vacation. But anyway, you get it. Conventions, that we don't have those demarcators that make us feel like simultaneously it's just nothing has happened. And it's been so long since I did anything that marked a milestone. So it feels like forever.
Yeah, especially because like our experiences aren't wholly different when we're just sitting in the same 4 rooms of our house every day for months on end. But I will say that for me,
Still go watch a new episode of To Boldly Watch.
That's literally what I was gonna say. Is like our journey through TNG has been a demarcation for me in a lot of ways because every week is another episode, and it's been fun to watch that progress too. So I've been comforted by this show a lot. So thank you both for joining me on this journey.
Well, thank
silver
you.
lining, Jake.
But it also adds to like the timey-wiminess of it because I'm also back in the 90s now as well as in 2020, which is a weird juxtaposition.
I notice so many more carpeted things when I watch this show, right? Everything is carpeted. Like everything looks like my uncle
Do I
Den.
make the joke here or do I just stay quiet? Okay.
But it does look like the interior of a Saturn, like a car
that
from
was
the
before
90s.
bikini waxers became a prominent occupation.
And they
Thank
didn't
you.
have any drapes that they needed to match because all the windows were out into space.
To boldly go.
Where no bikini waxer has gone before.
Risa. Anyway.
Well, in this episode, we're actually going to, starting off, we're going to a planet where an exile lives, Clavdia 3? Is that how you pronounce it? Clavdia?
No idea.
Clavdia?
Chlamydia 3.
That's right. It's the Dauphin. Wesley falls in love with the new leader of a war-torn planet.
Cue intro track.
You know, it's a fine episode. It just feels a little ploddy, and I say that Ploddy because it just kind of goes a little slow as we watch. I guess Wesley kind of figure out another that love exists.
Well, I think you mentioned it last episode, but Star Trek tends to be multiple genres, and this may be just aimed at the young adult audience. You know, Wesley as a character is there as a representative of the younger viewers that might be watching, me included. And so this was sort of like an adventure for straight people.
I thought about Xander and how this episode may have crushed his heart. Because you were like, no, that's not his type.
Well, I mean, I was also at a young age where, you know, sexuality isn't really figured out. You just have feelings and you kind of, you feel justified of doing the things that he does. You're like, yeah, you know, go for it. It's Romeo and Juliet. It's so romantic. But
it's Romeo and Juliet on many levels. She is the descendant of a very Romeo and Juliet situation.
She even had like the nursemaid after her the whole time.
Yeah. Except this nurse was way more annoying than the one in Romeo and Juliet. That one's pretty cool. Complete non sequitur, but something I noticed on the bridge because there was kind of a trouble with communication in the first scene where we're making contact verbally and on the view screen. How come Worf, as head of security, is also in charge of communications and descrambling bad audio?
That is a great question, and it shouldn't be that way because we've established that there have been communications officers in the past. But for, I think, expediency and to give Tasha something to do, they also made her head of communications. And when Worf kind of took over the position, they were just like, we'll just give you more lines, Michael Dorn. So that's what I think happened.
Michael Dorn always deserves more lines.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait to talk about some lines he has later in this episode.
Some of it you could justify of like the frequency of the shields are affecting it, and communication is a security measure too, but whatever.
Can we hold for 1 second?
Yeah.
I'm hearing a little bit of clipping in my headphones. Is anyone else hearing that?
I heard something weird, but now it's gone.
You heard like it was like clipping or like static or something?
This is just for you, YouTube audience.
Yeah, YouTube, you get to see this. Xander, can I get you saying that one more time, what you said about the Worf on the bridge about communications?
Yeah. So with Tasha, I think they wanted to give her more lines, and being head of security, you don't get to say a whole lot, but adding in communications will give her, more things to say. And when Worf inherited the position, because it used to be the two of them, right, up there behind there. But they've sort of combined the position into one so that Michael Dorn can have more lines.
And
let me say, they better be paying him overtime.
Yeah.
Not that money exists on this bridge, but
as we mentioned in a previous episode of To Boldly Watch, there's like the slight anachronism from the old series of like having a communications person because there always was like a radio operator on ships and stuff like that, but we don't really need that now. So that's been combined up on the tactical, whatever that's called, the tactical bridge. No, the tactical arch.
Yeah,
the tactical arch.
The tactical arch. Thank you. That's what it's called.
The second story.
We hear in this message, we're coming over, let us in. And we go to the transporter room and meet the stunning Salia of Dalit 4.
One interesting thing about this is they ask what species. There you go. Okay, I was wondering. I literally wrote Xander in parentheses because I knew he had something to say. He says, "What species are you?" And he says, "Human." So my question for you is like, you've said this before about the Enterprise feels very human centric, despite there being species of all types on it. Like, do they kind of use human as do they use human as a catch-all for humanoid?
Yes, and the Federation specifically representing the human side of things.
Got it.
So a Federation vessel is technically, for the TV term, a human vessel that could employ other aliens on board.
Okay. Good to know. But yes, that
kind of takes away agency from the Federation as a global governing body to say it's just humanity that is represented here.
Well, global's only one planet.
We do see that outside of
galactic.
Yeah,
the best counter argument of shut up.
Actually, in this episode, Whoopi uses that. So yeah. That term that is not to be said in the presence of one Will Wheaton. Don't you ever tell that man to shut up.
Yeah. Oh, so that being said, yes, this would be considered a human vessel since the majority of the passengers and staff are human. But they make it a plot point, and they do ask without the visual confirmation what.
And I guess that's to hide.
Boarding.
I guess that's to
they
hide their
their makeup
form, and they were like waiting to see what they looked like, so they could turn into humans to look like them when they.
Yeah, it's like when I do an audio only Zoom call. It's because I'm not human yet.
Yeah, right. So you always go, what do you guys look like?
Yeah.
Like,
And then you could see like, oh, we've got that in our database. We could do a couple of humans. That's fine.
Yeah. Riker offers her a tour straight off the bat, which, pretty on brand for Riker. But then she's only 16 or something, which you don't realize until her and Wesley lock eyes in the hallway. And she notices the big old magnet in his hands.
Is that a magnetic conduit?
And beauty. The what?
It'll suck the iron right out of your blood.
Yeah, that's the magnetic conduit indeed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, these star-crossed lovers.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you see Riker go like immediately recognize horny and like game recognize game, don't do it.
Sorry, she's not going to have time for you. She's destined to rule. Well, the thing is, she's destined to rule an entire planet because there is this planet that's completely at war because one side is in sunlight and one side is at nightfall at all times. which some people take too literally later. And her parents were both from the ruling parties of both of these factions, and then they made this hot baby, and hot baby has to go live on a planet alone to grow up. And now that she's old enough, she's going back to rule and hopefully unite the factions.
Yes.
Just to recap a little before we dig into the scenes.
Just by nature of being the kid of those two rulers, she's like in a position to put them back together.
Makes sense.
We've seen these sort of negotiation-based episodes too, much like the one before with the Greek chorus and things like that. So we know these sort of diplomatic situations exist, and that the Federation will comply by shipping parties one way or another, or
we shipping parties in this episode.
Yeah. But technically, they're not supposed to interfere with this culture, and so not only Wesley falling for this, ruling member of a royal family, is it adorable but also problematic on just being on the ship. It's also interfering with culture and saying we could take you away and you could be a part of our culture instead, which would totally throw everything into chaos, allegedly.
Are these? But
Sounds
this
like
is
it's already chaos, though, because in the night side of the planet, those people are definitely vampires. Come on. No sunlight whatsoever.
Well,
they're probably real weird.
What the nursemaid, the governess that was with her, wasn't that a representative of one side or the other?
I think you're right, because when they show their true forms of both of them, they look different.
Right.
I'm not sure what side Anya was from.
I don't think we ever saw Anya's true form. We just saw her fuzzy teddy bear and her angry teddy bear
you're
forms.
right, because we never saw the light form.
Well, yeah, we find out that they are elastomorphs.
Ooh, shapeshifters?
Right? This is before we knew about changelings or the Dominion or anything. That's DS9 way later.
Elastomorphs, is that what they called them?
Elastomorph. I like to watch the subtitles on, so I know how
like
to
an
spell.
elastic morphification to something else?
It was like OLLO, elastomorph.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I'm interested in the etymology of that now.
Or something like that, yeah.
But Troy senses this plot device early on. She's like, they're not hiding something they think. They're hiding something about themselves.
Finally, we see Troy again.
I know, for like a second.
Episodes.
Yeah, she wasn't in the last two.
Her scenes were very isolated with just her and Picard.
Mm-hmm. Not to go back to Measure of a Man, but I would like to have seen her in that episode, because as a counselor, she like counsels people, and we were talking about Data is a person, right? But yeah, we see her for a brief second, and we get her pretty much as a plot device, and then I don't think we see her again.
That was 15 minutes they cut out of the last episode. It was just Troy on the stand. She has a lot of thoughts about this. And they were like, she kind of made it too easy.
Yeah.
So Wesley goes gaga over the governess, and as he's working in engineering, he just can't get anything right. In fact, he might even be starting some emergencies. And Geordi wisely sees that, quote, his glands are erupting with hormones.
That's how I describe myself.
Also, just to clarify, Jake, I think when he said, I think it's the governess, that was a joke for the older woman, right? So she's not a governess, right?
Maybe you're right.
Actual woman, yeah.
I just thought because she was going to be a leader.
A joke. He played it straight. So in the hallway when they first see each other, he says to Riker, "Who is that?"
A governess.
And he goes, "I think that's a governess."
But it's supposed to be a joke, I think. Like, oh, you were talking about the other person that was with the governess.
Oh no, I thought she was referring to
that's
what's
her
name?
title?
Salia, because that's what she will be when she goes to her planet. She will govern over it.
A governess
is like a I understand now. That
but
makes
also,
sense. Okay.
there is no word in our language for the position that she will become. She says, "It's like, oh, you could try though." President,
the chosen one.
Yeah.
So Wesley needs some dating advice, and let me tell you what I got for you. Try that. It's our mating call.
And he's like, what do the women do? He's like, that's what the women do.
Yeah. What do the men do? Read love poetry.
It's true.
That might have been the best joke I've seen on this show yet, was just opening with his scream.
Yeah. Cutting straight into it was great. He's like, well, that might be a little too dangerous for me as a measly human. And Worf goes, you could beg like a human.
Right. Well, what's funny is I'm sure this was like a one-off joke that someone just threw in, like, what if the men read poetry? Haha, wouldn't that be funny? But they doubled down on that later on, like way later. We see a Klingon wedding, and they tells the tale of Kailash and the whole epic love story and everything like that. So it really does happen.
I'm glad they kept that consistent. That's really great.
Yeah. The best writing in the entire series is coming up next. So Wesley's going around. How do I court this lovely woman? And he goes into 10 forward and finds Riker and Guinan. Guinan.
It's fine. Guinan is hanging out with Brett Spiner.
That's right. But no, it's with Hot Pants Riker. And he's like, oh, I'll tell you how to talk to a woman. You ready? Guinan. Like the gynecologist. I got it. I'll get it right from now on.
Just like that.
Anyway, speaking of, they start doing the most romantic exchange. Whoever wrote this has studied Shakespeare a lot, obviously, because the Romeo and Juliet thing. But there's this back and forth that is delicious of them just, here you go, Wesley. Here's some sexy banter based on nothing. Ooh, I have a line. Ooh, is that line too intense for you? I don't know. Was it intense because it got your attention? It did get my attention, but is that because of my eyes? It was like, and Wesley's response is, I don't think this is the right
style.
Wesley.
God, it would so work on me if Riker just like looked at me.
You know, but that's actually, I think, a testament to both Whoopi. That's a testament to both of them. I think Whoopi Goldberg and Jonathan Frakes really nailed a scene that actually wasn't written that well. I think their delivery was done that well. Like his opening line is a cliche about she's like the most beautiful woman in the galaxy, and like he goes on about her eyes being like the stars. Like no one's made that comparison before. But the intensity and directness with which they deliver those lines to each other, and like the pacing of it, as Wesley's just like kind of back and forth with them, that really sold me on it.
I think that whoever wrote this and the director and the cast thought this was just a fun scene, and then they were like, oh, we need to write this relationship into the show because this is hot, people. This is hot.
After they stopped cameras, like, can we turn it down in here? It's really warm in this set. Oh my god.
And they turn around, the entire crew, male and female, it all has their shirts off.
Well,
sorry,
it also goes to show like what you can do with talented actors. You know, they can really take a script and elevate it to the next level.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so Wesley strikes out again in terms of like the best dating advice, and pretty much like what's he just decides to just go for it and go, oh no, Geordi gives him advice too. Geordi before he leaves, I think he even says something like just say, hi, I'm Wesley Crusher and I want to talk to you, which is like the most engineering way of doing it. Is just this is the data I would like to present to you and compel you with my argument.
Turns out he doesn't need to say nothing because she doesn't know how to work a replicator.
Yeah.
Or does she?
And the guy who was standing guard from security, a yellow shirt, real cute. Real good. You can see his pecs through his uniform.
Yeah.
There were just hot security officers this whole episode.
A lot of new NPCs. I mean, what do you call them?
It's true.
Background actors.
Yeah, red shirts. Traditionally. NPCs.
Non-player characters.
But I want you to think about, she can't work a replicator, and yet she was able to identify a magnet on site just passing in the hallway. Do you
no,
really
I will
think
not.
She can't use a replicator?
Oh! She can flirt too. Good line. Oh, wow. You really blew my mind there.
So he teaches her how to order some chocolate mousse. And meanwhile, Anya is going around and getting a tour of the ship with Worf. And she goes to Geordi and sees there's some serious, by her estimation, there's some irregularities here which might cause danger to the person she's protecting. I like her little exit from that scene, too, where she's on the lift and she's like, I'll be back to check your progress.
It's so good. But it does show that there is accessibility within engineering, and so we see Wesley and them going up and down these ladders. But for someone who might not be able to use a ladder, there are options. So it does show that.
Yeah. She also freaks out when she goes to sickbay and sees a patient with a potentially contagious disease, and we get to see Anya's other form.
Yeah, what do you call a freak out? I mean, how would you classify like a normal level freak out versus like a real big freak out?
Well, I wrote she barbarian raged and
she did
true form. So
and
like
who had to pause while they were switching out costumes, couldn't react until the new form was fully in place, making it look like he was way too slow. And later, when she tells him, "You were too slow, I caught you off guard," he should have come back with, "Oh yeah, that's because we have bad special effects and I couldn't move for 5 minutes."
But you know what? Through all of the danger and the surprise, you know who is there guarding her patient with a sparkly blanket? Dr. Catherine Pulaski.
Yet another wet blanket.
No.
Okay, but she was taking an undue risk there. Just relying on air filtration. She should be wearing a mask.
The Starship Enterprise has a galactic level filtration system, and it can like eliminate a bunch of airborne diseases, apparently.
Well, wouldn't that be nice, huh?
Yeah, it would be really nice right now. Just a few more centuries we'll have to wait, Becca.
Okay. Cool.
So
2020 will go on for a few more centuries, people.
So Anya freaks out. Worf starts to grapple with him and calls for security. A bunch of new NPCs come along with Picard.
Hunky NPCs.
Hunky NPCs.
Yeah. There's always a mix of like really kind of skinny, dweebish looking security guards and then really hunky, like muscular ones. It's very infrequently in between.
I totally caught that too. Yeah. There's 2 new guys and one of them is totally ripped and one is just like normal body. But I guess that's not something that they don't send them to boot camp for enterprise security. You just get the phaser and you're taught what to do with it.
Yeah. And anyone can be security. You just have to want to do it and go through the training.
Okay. Well, you would think that maybe you might have to do some sort of
the training might involve some
at some
push-ups.
point.
Yeah.
You would think maybe push-ups so you can lift your face quickly.
We're not body shaming on this podcast.
Not at all. No,
I'm
no.
not. I didn't say it was a bad body. I said it was different than the specific requirements that you would think for security training.
There are a variety of physiques for this particular position.
Also, as far as we know,
I'm ripped because I lift kettlebells every day. So, like, I can't do that.
You're also assuming that was a human. So that could be a very ripped other alien species. And we don't know.
That's a very good point. He's like a Jabba the Hutt franchise.
Right. But still.
So, meanwhile, Wesley takes Salia to the holodeck and takes her on what I say is one hell of a great first date.
I can show you the world carpet.
Yeah. I mean, for someone who got like advice he didn't want to follow from 3 different people, he figured it out really well. He went and showed her like a gorgeous spacescape, I will call it, of like this asteroid field / nebula, right?
Because what he really did was listen to her.
Mm-hmm. There we go, right?
What she
wanted to do instead of like his own tactics, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
What a lesson.
Did it. Yeah. You know what? When Anya is in her little bear form, this is way earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
Like she becomes a big scary bear in sick bay, but she's a little bear before that, and it very much reminded me of Five Nights at Freddy's, the video game, where all you can do is click to open and close doors, and basically Chuck E. Cheese style animatronics come after you in the middle of the night as you're a security guard at the pizza place or whatever.
And these had about the same production value, I would say. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The thing is, they established that she could morph quickly and with a thought, and that they turn on the view screen and they're like, "Can we see inside your quarters?" And like, hold on, and the little bear is like running into the distance because she can't shapeshift right there.
What was the point of the younger version of her? Like one scene, there was the younger Anya just to show that she can shapeshift.
She's a very beautiful actress who's wearing fuzzy pajamas with sexy cutouts, and I want that outfit. And I'm very confused why they didn't use. She was a good actress.
Yeah, she did great
in one scene.
One of the things that sort of sent my mind spiraling too, in like the different possibilities of a race that can shapeshift, especially someone who has been. They said they were in isolation, just the two of them, for so long. She would be able to change her form as well as like the personality, to be a friend to her, to be a governess for her, to be a protective small bear.
Kind of roles.
Exactly, because the way that she talks to the friend is different than the way that she talks to the governess, but it's the same person. And I think it's also showing the audience that she's not. This isn't like her true form is the bear or the human. She's shifting into many different things.
Interesting. So she could have been anything and chose to be this silly bear.
Right. Well, this could also be...
No, I really like your point that it's kind of like putting on a costume and you play the role. And okay, you know what kind of mood I'm in because I put on my I'm your friend skin.
Yeah, comfort
form. And now you can
tell
me anything.
Yeah, and these I think they could be examples of animals that they find ferocious on their planet. That this is what I turn into, like a bear or a wolf would be for us. This is their version of that.
It looks like a bear / a wolf,
with like a weird tongue thing.
/ what do you call a furry?
Well,
yeah.
Well, yeah. Sure.
I mean, this is definitely in the lexicon of like, you want to be a furry, you have to watch these episodes of television that talk about our people.
Yeah, there were a few things, like the transitions of this episode. One thing that I thought was really clever was that they used the captain's log to sort of explain away some things of like, it was crazy when she morphed into something so small that it got through our security system and we had to make a force. It's like, okay, that's a way to tell rather than show, but it was a clever way of navigating that plot point of how did they get out?
Right. Right.
Yeah, the special effects were apparently kind of hard to achieve that morph thing. That's why I only did it like once or twice. And the director thought the monster outfits looked so cheap that he tried to like lessen their screen time as much as possible.
It seems like it's the exact same thing they do for transport, which we heard Memory Alpha quotes talking about how they'd have to stand still for 3 minutes and keep the camera in place and then put them there and put them not there. And it seems like they use the exact same technology here, but it's so awkward for Worf, who's trying to interact with the thing in the same shot. I mean, I think the better way would be to punch in and
I mean, the morph effect didn't like jar me as much as just the flat out obvious like costume that it was. Like Five Nights at Freddy's or / Chuck E. Cheese is a good example of what those look like. And Chuck E. Cheese, those aren't even people in costumes; those are animatronics.
Right.
And those look more lifelike in a way.
But we've always had cheap villains or cheap alien costumes in Star Trek and sci-fi in general too. So you just kind of go along with it.
Yeah. And you can't ask questions when your power is infinitesimal in comparison to hers.
Yeah, she was constantly bragging about how much older and better and powerful she was.
You know nothing.
No, obviously she's been in isolation. You. That's what isolation will do to you.
Yeah, that's true. She was just ready for a fight. For 16 years, she's like, I want to fight somebody. Give me a Klingon security officer to butt heads with.
Well, give me somebody to fight.
She's been fighting with a kid in isolation. Like, we've just been in quarantine for 7 months and I fight Bonnie. I have more power than she will ever know.
Hey, what do you want to do today? Should we just fight? Okay.
Yeah, I'm older than you by like a lot. You'll never know how old I am.
Well, I think it's safe to say that there was less to this episode than there was to other episodes.
There was so much less, like, it's hard to even summarize the end of it. Like, we haven't even finished it, and I feel like it's over.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing, is that, and you can see it happening in the face. This was great acting. You can see in real time Wesley developing several new kinks as just layer after layer is revealed of his love.
I kind of had a thought on a different level. He sees okay, so what happens is she sneaks out as a tiny mouse and gets into Wesley's quarters, and then Anya comes and finds her and is like, I'm gonna turn into my bear form now to scare Wesley. And then somehow Salia turns into her bear form involuntarily. I wasn't sure why she turned into a bear
to defend him. I think it was volunteering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they turned into actual grizzlies and like put in some green screen footage of an actual bear, I think it would have worked better.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, bear
It's a
versus bear,
planet
I
of
get
grizzly
it.
bears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like she was exposing that this isn't my true form. This very beautiful young woman, this is a lot of what you fell in love with. Because let's be real, they're 16 and the exterior matters more to them. Even though Worf gave him the very sound advice that it's just a husk or whatever he said, which was so on brand. Oh, yeah, a shell. Don't be fooled by her looks. Her body is just a shell. I love it because it's astute and very Klingon.
Well, he didn't even say that to Wesley. He said that to the bridge crew in the beginning, which is another hint that they are something other than what they say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
also, I think from this you can draw that maybe the shapeshifting could be emotionally based, because we've always seen it as a reaction in some way, and maybe that could explain why she couldn't change instantly back into her human form.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but it's also making a lot of jumps in logic.
Well, then Wesley was a little shut down to his love after he'd seen that she wasn't just a hot girl. She was also a bear and a ball of light. Right. And it kind of gave me a little bit of an analogy to, I don't know, like coming out of it as a trans person or something, you know, that sort of disclosure idea.
Wow, yeah.
That's interesting.
I didn't know what you were, but you fell in love with me.
That is a great conclusion. Well done. Yeah, I think that's a great analogy to something like that. Of you express feelings of love and care to this other person, and you think or you feel like they're being reciprocated, but you have this secret about you, and you don't know if they will still love you after they find out this horrible secret.
And he almost doesn't. You know, teenage boys are shallow,
right?
But he thinks about the pudding.
He thinks about the pudding.
I'll leave it at that.
I think we also know this is going to be a complicated relationship no matter how it carries on. So, like, he gets it.
Yeah. She asks for a goodbye, and he won't give it to her until he thinks about it. And then he comes with the bowl of mousse into the transport. And she says, turn around. You can't see my true form, but he looks.
He looks. We also know from the past that Wesley is destined to be some sort of the one figure, because it has been mentioned before. So for him to be open to this type of romance, I think says a lot of his character and what he's open to experiencing.
Do you think that he regards himself as the one in some way? Like, wait, I know that the Traveler said that, because that's what you're referring to, right? Is the Traveler said he's destined for greatness or something like that? Yeah. But like, that's not something that he carries in his ego, is it?
Well, no, but I think that you want to be able to see that potential. And, you know, if we see this early on, this openness of acceptance of other beings, even in a romantic sense, is what I'm saying. Like, it's sort of hinting at, yes, he does have the capacity to grow beyond what we see.
Yeah.
And he might become a furry.
I think he did.
What's it called if you got a kink for auras? An Ori? A ball of lighty?
Don't we all? Oh, I see. When she becomes the ball of light at the end?
Yeah, when she's like
it was very attractive. It was very humanoid.
I'm photosexual. I'm only attracted to light.
Photosexual. That's good.
I mean, this episode, like, I appreciate that they wanted to do a little bit of growing up with Wesley, and that he's like a hormonal teenager. I liked that scene in Engineering. I like what this again, like many of these episodes that I don't love, I still like what they could have done with it. I feel like there's a couple of ways we could have improved this. One, I would have liked to see Worf and Anya really have that antagonism that they keep talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I kind of want to see them just go duke it out on the holodeck, right? Like, let's just get that scene. And I also think that maybe a B plot of some sort would have helped move this along. Maybe the governess needs to have, like, the governess is kind of, the Anya is a little bit of a B plot, but she kind of doesn't really.
Tell us more about that infectious disease.
Right.
Oh, the encephalitis or whatever?
Yeah. Well, I think that Wesley also is serving as a foil for the audience about finding out these different mating rituals or courtship rituals for Klingons or androids or Geordi, you know, whatever works. But, you know, he operates as us, as no understanding, and so the B plot is also fleshing out the other characters. We're using Wesley as a lens to see the other people.
what was my question that I was left wondering is what was Salia's growth in this episode? Like she wasn't ready to be the leader at the beginning of the episode, and then suddenly she
still
was.
wasn't.
Well, but that's the thing. But like
That's a good point.
Anya says differently. She's like, "You are ready to govern, or you're ready to lead them, or whatever." She says at the end, and I didn't see. And I didn't see her development at all. I just like we saw this romance didn't quite work out, right?
Yeah, she needs the year abroad. What's the German word for that?
yeah. The gap year.
Yeah, no, there's a great word.
You mean Rumspringa? That's the Amish thing where they go into to modern society for a while.
Okay, actually, that sounds a little bit like a German word. I was thinking of Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude, the joy at other people's
pleasure and
expense.
the misery of others. Yeah. Unrelated.
But what you're saying, Jake, I think is to a point of like they've been in isolation. She's got to go and lead, but the last step is reintegrating her into some sort of society. And the first test that she comes up against is this romance, and it's like appropriate for her age. It's what a normal person would be going through, perhaps. And she makes the adult decision to not stay on the Enterprise and stay with Wesley, but to move forward and to choose to be a leader. And I think that's what the lesson was. It's weak, but
yeah, it is weak, but I get it.
Yeah, we could have used more of a speech from her about like, no, I think I'm ready. It was cool seeing the holodeck. Thanks, buddy. Yeah. But I didn't feel sparks. Bye.
Yeah. I still think Will Wheaton did a good job with an episode that would have been very difficult to film as a 16-year-old. Although this is his first on-screen kiss, which I think is adorable. Also, she's 10 years older than him, if you can believe it.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay,
right?
Well, then I feel less weird about like saying I'm surprised that Riker's not hitting on her.
Well, we'll see if he gets to attack or... We'll see if he gets to hit on anybody else next episode, which is Contagion.
Oh, no.
I don't know what this is.
Do you know what this is, Xander?
No, I just don't like it.
Well, the Enterprise and a Romulan warbird are both attacked by the same computer virus.
Oh, okay.
Oh, looks
the
like
Romulans.
Enterprise...
We haven't met any Romulans yet. They're just referred to very often.
We met them very briefly at the end of season 1, I believe, right? The neutral zone?
Yes.
They were like
briefly.
Very brief. Yeah, like we pretty much just talked to them about the potential of this other antagonist that's out there in deep space somewhere.
Now I remember.
We'll see what that antagonist is and maybe if they're going to appear now.
I think they will. Not to be confused with the movie with Nicole Kidman.
Agent?
Batman Forever?
Oh, yeah. Batman Forever.
Batman Forever. You know.
Was Contagion Nicole Kidman?
No.
That wasn't Nicole Kidman.
It looks like her. You get it. Like,
Amy Adams? No.
Naomi Watts.
Naomi Watts? No. We're all wrong. Contagion movie.
Don't worry, I'll get it.
It's
Engage.
No, it's Gwyneth Paltrow.
Engage. Oh, Goop.
Yeah, the Queen of Goop.
Yeah, the Queen of Goop. Okay, not to be confused with the Queen of Goop's movie.
Right.
See you next week.
Engage.
Make
Great
it so.
ending.